Okay, it's noon. So thank you everybody for coming out. My name is Christy Thompson. I'm the marketing manager here at BIS. And today we're going to be talking about how leaders can use Copilot AI and Microsoft Teams. So really, it's about enhancing team efficiency and productivity with AI. So let me introduce you to our speaker and host, Phillip Long. So he has 25 plus years of IT experience. He's the CEO of Business Information Solutions, as well as CyberFortress 360 and Veritas Consulting Group. He recently received his ethical hacking certification, which is really, really interesting. So he can think like a hacker to protect businesses. He also has two other certifications. He is a certified information systems security professional, and he holds a CMMC designation as well. And then he has 600 plus Gulf Coast clients, really all the way from like Montgomery to Dothan on the Mississippi Gulf Coast as well, and in Pensacola. So I'm going to turn this over to Phillip.
Cool. And actually, we need to update that slide there because we've really gone well beyond this local area. We're up in even some Tennessee stuff. So, and again, that's just showing the power of technology. But I'd like to really thank everybody for coming out and taking the time to invest in their business. And I think that we really ought to focus as business owners on the use of artificial intelligence, AI, and trying to kind of drive that company ahead because it is definitely a very powerful tool, and I think it's going to have a deep impact on all businesses. And of course, the early adopters are going to have a really big head start on the others. So let me tell you a little bit about really our mission here. What we want to do is accelerate business growth and even business effectiveness, we may say, through technology leadership by identifying the needs, implementing the solutions, and then supporting that technology so that you can have that ongoing and sustainable success. So today, of course, the topic is about Microsoft Copilot. Specifically, but it's a form of artificial intelligence, and really what it is, it's Chat GTP 4 version 4 currently that they're using, and it's going to enhance real-time productivity, and it's also going to generate content. And it is so good at the LLM, or what they call the large language model. It's very effective at writing and thinking, and it can be used in so many ways, and we're going to go over it. And I'm not going to kill you by PowerPoint. I'm going to do what you're not supposed to do, is I'm going to jump out and I'm going to do some basic demos because I really think that getting somebody interested and curious is the way that they're going to want to get engaged. And then going back to kind of what Copilot is, it's embedded in the Microsoft technology, and I'm going to show you where the little icon shows up, and I'm even going to show you how to use it. And it seamlessly works throughout the Microsoft workflow, and it's really designed for a lot of things. Summarizing things, it's really good at writing things, brainstorming, and now it is getting more and more sophisticated in the means by which you can handle tasks. And I think that's where where it's not like they don't have a solution for every piece of software that somebody uses, but they are definitely making strides in helping it do more than just answer questions or write books or sentences or create things. And I'm going to show you a little bit of that today. All right, so one thing that it does is it can enhance your team's meetings, and I'm going to demo this in a second, so I just want to kind of get through the slide work, if you will, and then we can actually get over to demoing things. It's great in Teams where if you have a meeting, you can hit record, and it will do all the auto note-taking for you. And it'll capture everything there as far as task creations, like the summary of the meeting, and it creates it all after the meeting. You can recap the meeting. You can have all of the basically chapter and verse of the entire meeting if you're doing it on video, and it actually is integrated with Microsoft Streams. A lot of people don't know what that is, but it's basically Microsoft's video. And what's cool about it, and I'm going to demo this, is you can go and say, I want to know every time that a word, my name was brought up during that meeting, or this project name was brought up in that meeting. And it will actually take it, and like if there was 10 people in that meeting, it will show you every time and the person who said that word, and you can simply, it'll give you a little synopsis of the sentence it was put in, and then you can click on it and it will take you to that particular section of the meeting. It's also great for, like, if say you missed a meeting and you want to recap it, but maybe you don't want to sit through a whole just watching the video. You could watch the whole video of the meeting and hear it like that, but maybe you just want to summarize it. Maybe you want to, kind of get the cliff notes on it. I'm going to show you how that works. And then also some smart follow-ups. It's really great as far as like if you want to send that out. Let's say you're having a client meeting and you want to send out the synopsis of that. You can simply hit share and send it out to your client, and it kind of does all the homework for you, and it's picking up on your keywords so that, like, if it's an action item or a to-do, it's going to put it in it's going to put it into that email so that you're sharing with them. It saves you an enormous amount of time, and that data is saved forever. And you could even, if you had meeting after meeting after meeting with that particular person, you could actually then go and use Copilot to review all of those meetings and do basically the same kind of things. Give me summaries, give me information about a specific project or specific whatever. It'll pull it up from all of the meetings. So it's very, very, very powerful in that way. And if you really didn't get anything out of this, then if you knew how to do that with as much activity as we're doing, like remotely with Teams and everything, you would just be, you would be way ahead of the game. And if you learn that one little piece, I think it's going to increase your productivity incredibly, as well as assign to-dos and all that other stuff. I often think, I literally had a call this morning with a guy, and we went out to see Jordan Peterson last night, and we were talking about it. And I wish, and they do even have these things like little recorders you could just pop on the back of your phone, and basically it'll dump that recording of like you had a meeting with somebody or something. It'll dump all of that. It'll transcribe it, and then it also will recap it, and it'll have all of that captured forever, so that you can go back to. It's funny because his wife was asking him what all was discussed, and of course this is about a 2-hour event, and a lot of things were discussed. So it's a lot of it's kind of heady or whatever. So it's difficult to, get all of that out. It would have been great where he just could have said, "I'll send you the synopsis over so that you can get it." It'd be way better than what you would be able to kind of relive or communicate. So. Another thing, and I'm going to show you this too. This is like in chats, which is Teams, and Outlook, how you can basically look at, say, an Outlook email, or say there's these long chains of emails. I don't know if you guys get those. And it's like, man, I haven't even looked at that in 3 weeks, and here's the update. I need to get some more context. Or maybe you're like, now I know I sent them that dang email about this or that. And you can go and search for that, and you can pull it up really fast, and it puts it into context and reveals the source of where that transaction happened. Really good, as well as even using the assistant to write a draft. Like you want to just like it'll read all that, and you can hit the AI assistant and say write a response, and it'll write the response. To me. Sometimes that's a little wordy, but it's very effective and very well written. So it would work for sure. But for me, I'm a little more short and to the point. I would feel like somebody who really knew me would know I didn't write it. But again, I think that as time progresses, AI is getting smarter, and it's getting smarter about the things that you write and how you want it as a whole. And so it's going to begin to sound more and more like you. And smart summaries, and then even idea generation. A lot of times, you're like, I need to say this, or you're just like in a spot, and it is so great just to pop in there and start asking questions. And I'll make this point, and I hope this is a takeaway for everyone too. They've always said, if you want better answers, you have to ask better questions. I tell myself that all the time, and with AI technology and Chat GTP and Copilot, the better you're able to articulate and to refine your questions, they call them prompts, the better answer you're going to get. And you can keep dialing in on something, and it gets better and better and better as you ask those better questions. And I'm going to demonstrate that just a little bit today. But if you're curious and you want to continue on continue on asking better questions, you're really going to get things that you at your fingertips from not just one book, or you think about technology in general, about the application of it, or the acquiring and aggregation of it. This is such a powerful tool. That can also be used, and I'm going to demonstrate this, it can also be used in a very limited scope, where it's just going to be like maybe on just a set of documents. Let's say you're an attorney and you had your law books put into a PDF or a Word document or something. You could put them all in that one thing, and then you could ask questions as the law, or you could actually connect it to, like, there's a website for attorneys called Pacer, and you could connect it, and you could actually look at how, like, judges have ruled on previous cases. So there's just an enormous amount of information out there if you're very curious, and if you know how to ask good questions. And the cool thing is, really, that idea generation is where it will help you ask better questions. All right, so this is kind of what we talked about on the prompts themselves. You want to be very specific, like summarize yesterday's budget meeting. You know, you want to talk about, because otherwise it may actually if you said summarize meeting, it may look at all the meetings that you had. And I'm gonna talk to you about how it connects to the Microsoft ecosystem. I'm going to show you that, and there's even a lot of security concerns about how you set permissions inside of that Microsoft ecosystem. Another one is you want to add context. Draft email to marketing team about Q3 campaign launch. You want to tell it exactly what you're looking for. Select the format. I want 5 bullet points summarizing client feedback from, maybe you've got this folder, or maybe you're catching all of your client feedback into a Teams channel. And I'll show you that if I remember. If not, somebody remind me, because every Teams channel has an actual email address. And if you have all of your client feedback being, like, basically the email just coming in and going into that Teams channel, you can create an agent to read that client feedback Teams channel, and you can summarize, you can ask it questions, you can, again, the person who's there that is thinking and asking those good questions, it's endless what you could do with it. And then, of course, I'm going to show you how to save a prompt, because if you save a prompt, it's going to get smarter the more that you use it. And you don't have to or if you want to go back to that prompt, like, man, I had such a great prompt, I had such a great way I asked that question, I want to go back and look at it and keep working and digging into that, I'll show you how to save prompts.
Hey, Philip, before you move
Yes.
on, we had 2 questions come in. Is
Sure.
now a good time?
For
Okay.
sure.
How accurate is the note transcription feature?
As far as like in a Teams meeting, I tell you, I think it's extremely accurate, especially if you're aware of how it works, and as you use it, you'll get more aware. It's the interpretation on like language. I'm from the South and I have a very Southern accent, and I probably talk, whatever, got my way, and it translates beautifully, transcribes that beautifully. But as far as like action items or to dos, like, and I'll show you here in a second where it kind of puts the summary and then it puts action items and to dos down at the bottom. That um, if you're like conscious of that and you say, okay, I'm gonna put that in as an action item for me, or that's a to do for me. If you do that, it is really effective. But of course, it puts a little note at the top that says, hey, this is generated by AI. Check for make sure it's correct, accuracy. All right, what's the other one?
And then does Copilot have the ability to restrict who in the organization has access to certain notes?
Yes. Um, It does, not necessarily by Copilot, but there is definitely a way to restrict what other people see. And it's important to do that. And I think as things continue to evolve, and if you understand kind of that Microsoft platform and ecosystem, it's important to understand. For permission purposes. And I'll just touch on it a little bit now. It's like everything lives in the Azure SharePoint, but like your Teams folders all live in there too. It's kind of like, let's just say it's the hard drive. Maybe that's a good way to say it. It's the hard drive, and then I put Teams in there, and Teams has content, files, and folders and stuff. And then your OneDrive, like the things that you save, in your local OneDrive, is also being stored on that SharePoint platform. And the interesting thing, and why I think Teams is going to kind of rise to the top as your main collaboration, communication, meeting, and point of focus, is because of the permissions. It's pretty easy to add people and remove people from Teams. And when you remove them, then Copilot, if they were like in their experience, in their Microsoft Copilot, they wouldn't be able to look at that. They wouldn't be able to look at that Teams and anything in the content of the chatting or the videos or the documents that you share. So that's good, very good questions, and that's I think if you focus on Teams and using it, it makes it a lot easier for the end user to manage their permissions.
And that's what we had one more question come in for that. Our internal IT department has advised us to be mindful of using AI tools since we could be sending sensitive information to unknown AI agents. How secure are the built-in Copilot tools?
They have what they call enterprise security, but you should never use things that necessarily, especially on some of the other engines that identify you. You don't want to put in questions that you're asking or whatever, and then put in, hi, my name's Philip Long, and I live at Silver Hill, Alabama, and my email. Don't put in that type of information, because quite frankly, we don't. It's certainly being stored and it's being kept, but the full ramifications of all of it are concerning. So I would be very conscious of, especially outside of the Copilot, because if you think about it, you have to have a level of trust with certain people and certain entities. Let's say you're using a cloud-based app for document management, or for claims adjusting, or medical practice software. Whoever touches that has access to that at some level. And that's why Microsoft, they have, like for instance, there's the GCC, it's the government contract thing, and it only allows the data to be stored in the United States. And then they have what's called GCC high, and that means that everyone that has access to the data is an American citizen. So there's but I just always, there is in the society that we live, people are like, well, I'm scared to put this here or there. I think that genie's out of the bottle, and it's been out of the bottle a long time. There has to be, your data is going somewhere, and people have access. I don't want to get political or anything, but like everybody's freaking out, like, Elon Musk has access to all these files. Well, he actually has a top secret clearance, and there's probably 100,000 other people in the government who don't have top secret clearance that have access to all of those files as well. So, kind of just, I just want to say that because that's the world we live in, guys. Just that's the reality of it. But again, you don't want to, I call it, least access or least, you want to shrink the footprint on anything that you release out. If you don't need to let it go, then don't. So here's some things, upload the documents. I'm going to show you how to do this and then summarize the key points. There's some things that you're going to be able to do. I just had a trust made, and I tell you, everybody needs to get a trust. So don't die without a trust. And yeah, it's much better than a will. And so I'm going to just upload that. I'm going to do that live. That's what you're not supposed to do in these kind of meetings. But I've made a lot of mistakes, and I ain't scared to make another one because my intent's right. Because if you see it, you'll see how easy it is, and I think that maybe you'll actually say, you know what, I want to do that because I have these files. Think if you were an attorney and you had all of the client files that on a case that went on for 10 years, you could dump them into this thing like I'm fixing to show you how to do, and then you could ask questions of that, of all of that data. And I think that we're going to see, I was going to play around a little bit, but I couldn't get them downloaded really easily. I was going to dump all of my demonstration today was going to be go getting the JFK files and dump them all and put them into a chat GTP or into using Copilot and then ask questions of it. It'd been kind of interesting. So let's talk about creating an agent. I'm going to flip a screen over on in front of us, and this right here is the Copilot interface. And if you notice, and I want y'all to ask questions. So Christy, don't stop by interrupt me if I'm
Yes,
getting when
sir.
people aren't following, because I want you we're going to slow down here just a second. We got time, and I want to show you a couple of things about the Copilot dashboard. All right, so this is web. That means it's not going to be looking at anything within the BIS organization. It's looking strictly at the web. It's like the paid for version of ChatGTP version 4. And that's how it's going to do. And they've got some prompts up here about, just some general basic prompts. I'm going to show you how to save a general basic prompt. Let's just say I want to know, show me a standard marketing campaign that 10x Grant Cardone would be using. All right, so that's just this is something that I'm specifically asked about a specific guy who did that. So this is some things that Grant Cardone is known for his aggressive blah, 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 blah. Okay, cool. All right, I want to come up here and I want to save this prompt. And I could name it something. I'll call it, and I want to pull that back up later. That's the actual prompt, and I want to save it. And then I can view my prompts down here and take it a second here, but you just hit view prompts and it'll save them. It's going to save them in two different categories, the Microsoft and then your prompts. And here's that one right there. So I want to go back to that one, and then I want to say, show me a like a social media marketing campaign schedule. It's going to now show me what to do from all of that. So that's just simple saving a prompt and then going back and being able to view them. It's just there's so many things I could show you here, but I want to focus over here. If I want to do a new chat, I just go up here, and this where you can see this enterprise data protection. You could read all that language, but that's going to basically say that Microsoft is treating your data securely and things like that. But this is what I want to show you about these agents. And this would be a specific need. And this is where I would start if I was wanting to use it. I guess maybe you might want to start with it, even just generally just using it if you're not already. But this is a great place if you want specific answers. I do a lot of cybersecurity stuff. So I have these documents from the source saved on my OneDrive. And I want to basically pull up information from the actual, not from the web, but just from that one source. So when I ask questions, if I ask it to write me a policy, it's going to pull it from the mothership. You could even do that. You could add those sources. You could add additional websites and things like that. So I'm going to do two agents for you. And first I'm going to show you this get agents right here. This is where Microsoft has created agents that are like standard agents. And we're seeing these libraries of agents that are really highly refined, chat GTPs with all the responses and the descriptions, the prompts, they're already built in it. The data sources are already kind of built into it. And you can see there's really a lot more than these. You can look the ones built by Microsoft and everything else, and like decisions, it's going to read your calendar and it's going to give you information about how to create an agenda for upcoming meetings. There's a lot coming out in law because law will be one of those industries that is so greatly impacted because law uses language so much. So again, you can kind of think about if an industry is going to use language, it's going to really be impacted greatly by that. And they have some already built out for that type of use. But I'm going to create one just off of something that you could use. You create your own, if you will. So I'm going to come in here and I'm just going to create an agent. And this is the one that that is going to be one for my trust. Okay, so you can actually go through this thing here and it literally will walk you through. Hi, I'm here to help you build an agent. You can start by describing what you want to do. Start describing. And then it'll ask you about the things, but I'm going to just cut this short. I'm going to pop over here and go to configure. Basically, this describing and all that is going to fill out all of these type things. And if you had a particular template, and you can save these as templates, you could do that. And if you look back there, an idea coach, you may want to create you one for an idea coach. And then I'll show you, you could actually go point it to some certain websites or some certain documents that are very relative to the things that you want ideas to be based off of. I hope this is making sense for you guys. So, all right, so this one is going to be long family trust. right? If you ever had trust made, I forget, there's about, I don't know how many words are in all those 12, 15 documents, but there's a lot. And so I built this and I'm just rebuilding it. Okay, so I'm going to describe my agent, you know, and these type things, especially the instructions, are extremely important. And I'm not going to get super deep in it. I'm going to show you some instructions on some of these that are already saved. I think will be a time saver. Um, to answer questions that are in. And I hope your mind's going to something that you have a need for right now. So give instructions to your agent. Say maybe I want this in bullet pointed. I want things more bullet pointed, or maybe I want a response that gives no more than 50 words. These are the kind of things that you could put in here that are going to, um, you know, make it so that whenever it gives you these answers after the prompts, that's how it's going to be formatted for you. So I'm just going to say that. Give um, summaries so that a 12th grade or whatever, like an average, but you may say, you know what, I don't want an average. I want a summary that is based off of an attorney, that specializes in whatever. I hope I'm making my points there. These instructions that you give it tell it what to do. If you go back to what I was showing you on those ones that are already made, those are basically these type things, but on super steroids, right? Um, so that an average AV, whatever, and then use 10th grade language, whatever. Okay, now here's where I'm going to pick and where I want to get the document from. And this is where we talked about earlier about permissions. When you look at this is like some Teams channels that I have. And like, let's think for an employee or something. Let's say that they had access to that Teams channel. When they went to Copilot, all of that would show up. But just to cut to the chase, I know basically I know the name of the document that's saved in my OneDrive. So I'm going to look for the Long Family Trust, and it's really just looking in my OneDrive. I'm going to click there, and I'm going to select that. And now all those documents are now part of this. And this right here is another section that's coming. We're talking about the advancements and everything. There's what's called Copilot Studio, and it's going to be the creation of what do I want to do with this. Okay, I made this. Now I want to email this database with a letter or an email. It's going to be able to do all types of automations, and I'm even going to share with you some companies that really specialize in taking your company and evaluating it, and then looking at how they make it help you use AI. There's a lot of stuff out there. It's not just point and click, but for a few things, or many things, but as it might relate to your industry. If you're using the CRM that's very popular. Christy, you could help me. Uh,
HubSpot,
no, the
Salesforce.
Salesforce. Yes. Okay. So um, anyway, there's a lot of integrations with Salesforce because it's so popular. Okay. So then I could also enter some prompts. Like I want just some standard questions that I want to show up when I make this. I'm not going to put them in there, but you could use Copilot to help you with the instructions that I just put in up there and the starter prompts. You could tell, I could open up another Copilot and say, hey, give me 10 prompts, 10 basic prompts that would be, smart to use or whatever, good questions to ask from a family trust. And it would give them to you, and you can put them right there. You can also, if it has code in it, like this is also very good for people who write code because there's a logic and language. That's a form of, it's a language, is what like coding when you're writing code. And it also, you could turn it on if you were going to do image generation. And again, there's just so many things that are um, that are out there. I can't really go over everything, but it'll create images for you. And the cool thing about those images is that they're not trademarked or anything, so you can create images and all on that. Now, I can also. This is another place for security. I could share this with someone else. That's especially good if you wanted to have some standard prompts, like if you wanted to share that with somebody else, especially if the data was to be changing all the time. Like let's say that files were constantly being added. Uh-oh, kick me out. Um, but anyway, uh, if files were to constantly be changing and being added back there in the background, you could save those prompts so that someone else in the company would be able to pull a report. Or maybe it's a report that you pull all the time and it'll show up in these little boxes like right here. So let's go back and look at my, see if my agent actually, yeah, Long Family Trust. Looked like it just wanted to kick me out and let me back in. So now I am in this particular trust, and let's just say I want to ask a question. And again, if I had saved some default prompts, they'd be right here. And let's just say, I don't know, let's be morbid. What happens if dies first? And it's actually looking at those documents, just single source. And there was another place where I could have added down there. I don't know if you noticed, I could have added some websites. Like, let's just say you were doing something with medical. And I don't want everybody knowing my business too much, but this is the kind of thing. And I could continue to dig in and dig deep, and then saying, well, who's the beneficiaries, who's the whatever. I could ask anything of those documents and come up with it. I'll show you a couple more here that as far as like if you go and click create an agent, you can look at all of your agents. And here's one that my daughter is a nursing student. And this is an agent I made for her. This agent acts as a tutor for nursing classes, providing guidance, awareness, questions, and offering support to students. And this is the instructions. This is how this bot has to act. They have to provide clear and concise explanations for all areas of nursing, answers questions, offers support, avoid providing medical advice or diagnosis, maintain a professional, witty, and humorous tone, ensure responses are accurate. Now, I could make it to where, like, there was maybe all of her books that she had, her class books. If I could get them into a PDF, I could dump those out there, and it would ask those questions, answer questions that she had based off of that. Or I could point it to WebMD as well as the web in general. So it has the ability to be able to be very concise, and that's where, like the question came earlier, maybe about accuracy, which isn't super relative, directly relative, but it is relative where you can point it to a source so that you could limit the information that it's going to have to pull from. Therefore, it would be more in line with what you're trying to acquire. And this one would also, I turned on where you could do that. And here are the prompts that are right here. And if I look at that one, it's going to look more like this right here, where these prompts will be here. Study tips. What are the most effective study tips for nursing? Okay, so that was one thing I for sure, and here's the study tips. Now, I tell you what, I'll show you something kind of cool. All right, let's just say that, say I want, I'm gonna say, give me, you know, 18 tips. I want more than 6, so I'm gonna make it give me 18. I'm gonna copy that content, and then I'm gonna take it out here to. Now this isn't necessarily, this isn't Copilot. This is just a thing that I use all the time. Uh, this is called Gamma, and I'm going to create a presentation off of this. So I'm just going to really just take that content that I just made and drop it in here. Um, and I'm going to make a presentation. Again, I could build a website off this content or whatever, and then go to continue. And then this is the, how I want it to look. So it's writing for it already knows because it read the content. Nursing students seeking effective study habits. Okay, I want it informative. The tone is informative, encouraging, and practical. That's fine. Images. I can put in here because the images is going to create, use images that are medical related and, image related and, have medical staff in them. Okay, so I'm going to do that, and this is going to make it with basically 8 slides. I could do more or less, but just to kind of just give you a flair for it, and it's really pretty good. I can adjust the theme and kind of pick whatever I want, or um, I could pick a custom one, and I kind of have one that's standard for BIS. Say I want to put it in my theme. I've saved that, and then I hit generate. And I'm going to show you just how quick it can make that. It's a pretty good product. We vetted this one pretty heavy, and it really worked well. But there are literally thousands of products out there, and they are ever increasing. And that's why I just want to encourage everybody, let's get on it, because we're going to wind up, if you don't, you're going to wind up behind the 8 ball, and your competitor, who's going to be, more innovative, are going to come up and eat our lunch. But so here's the slide deck. And it's almost finished. 7, 8. Okay. Master Nursing Studies, proven success strategies. Activate learning, and I can go in here and quickly edit and change this if I want it to look a different way. But that's a pretty good thing. And again, it followed my advice where in my suggestion, I wanted medical with people in it. And it's not going to do every one of them, but, kind of heavily laden. I could go back in and change that picture very quickly. I simply come here and I go to export, and I want to export it as a PowerPoint. Boom. Then I could even modify it in the PowerPoint if I wanted to. Okay, so that's just one kind of broader use of AI. All right. I don't know if you guys use Excel. I use Excel some. I'm not super heavy a user on it, but like when you want to do compares and things like that with Excel, or how do I, it rides right in Excel. I'm not going to get deep into a demo on that, but you can open up a document, and you can go to Copilot, and then you can ask it questions about how to do things within that document. That's how, kind of like we are talking about, how it's embedded in the product. I want to show you like in email in general, or I tell you what, I want to demo that one in that's actually in Teams. All right, so I'm just going to come back and go to one of these. These are meetings that we have, within our organization. I want to pick one. Um, I'll go pick the, what's today? It's the 20th and it's Thursday, so the 19th. Okay, that's the dispatch meeting that we had. Um, okay, sales and marketing. That's the one I wanted to do. Okay, this is the actual meeting that we had amongst our sales and marketing. It's just three of us, but I can come here and I can pull up the meeting recap. That's what I wanted to show you. Okay, here's the video. Here's the participants. You can see where and when they spoke. I have the meeting notes, so it goes over everything that happened within that meeting and puts it into a nice synopsis. It also has a transcription so that if you ever wanted to have it, it's there. And the cool thing is it's there forever now. And so I can always go back to that. And like I said earlier, I can go to that particular Teams channel. And where I made that one for the long trust, I could go and pull up that Teams channel with all of our meetings and all the documents that we have shared. And then I can ask questions of that entire Teams channel. Or if, say, you had an HR Teams channel and you wanted to get a summary of the challenges or the things that have faced the company or the to-dos for a certain person that throughout this one meeting or throughout the entire year or all kind of things that you can go and pull from, and it's all integrated and it happens automatically with just hitting record up at the top. And if I wanted to share that, and then I'll go down here to the, excuse me, I'm going to go down here to the bottom and show you here's all the follow-up tasks. And you can see who gets their name gets put by who has a particular follow-up task. So really cool. And again, if I would say I didn't make that meeting and I wanted to be able to listen to it or view it or read it or get the summary of it, I have all those things options. And I can also share that in Outlook. Like this is what I do a lot of times after I have a client meeting. I'll say, okay, I'm going to share this with everybody on the call. Boom, it comes in and it lays all of that out into an email, and I can add a little note right at the top, hit send, and boom, I'm on to the next thing. Huge savings over taking all those notes and then having to take them off of paper or whatever and put them into Outlook. So it takes it a second because there's really a lot of work that's going on right there, but it will come up. I'll show it to you in a second. So that, and then the other thing is that stream that I spoke about. This is the Microsoft Video storage, and again, I talked about it all being in SharePoint. That's the platform all this data lives on. But I can recap the meeting, list action items, show me the parts where. I don't know. I could come up with something, I would think, where email was discussed. It's also cool for whenever you're like, dude, I know I told all y'all that in the meeting, and everybody's like, you didn't. Well, this will dang sure help you because it talks about the spring cleaning email campaign and exactly where it happened in the video, and it'll take you to that very part. It gives you kind of a scenario, takes you to that very part. And again, all that happened. Everything that happened right there was simply by hitting record meeting. So all that other stuff just automatically happened, and I can use Copilot now to go back and search this one meeting, or I could go back and search that entire Teams meeting for every meeting that we've ever had. So I'll just show you that scenario there. And this is Microsoft type stuff that we're seeing right here, like getting kicked out and stuff. But it's probably much worse for me because I log into a bunch of people's 365 and there's some cache credentials or whatever. But it really works well. And or you could just cut and paste those notes and things. So, all right. So, in the name of time, I know we're getting close, and I want to leave time for some questions. I want to just go ahead and finish um, the slides and everything, so we have some time for some Q&A. Um, Security, we talked about that. I want to reiterate that user control, permissions management is extremely important. And as everything starts to move more and more towards the cloud, and Microsoft being the predominant one, you really are going to have some controls in place and some ways to be able to know when security permissions get changed. The good news is that Microsoft has that built into the product. The bad news is, I'll just be honest, it's difficult to find it and it's difficult to manage it. It's Microsoft, I mean, it's just not as user friendly as we would hope. A little clunky, but there are things there, and it is important that it gets done because you would hate to have it. I did a scan on a guy's local network the other day, and looking at permissions and who had permissions to what, and there were, I think, 20 something thousand records that had personal identifiable information, social security number, phone number, address, medical stuff. It had a whole bunch of stuff in it, and everyone in the company had access to it. Well, that's bad. But when we go to the cloud and we have Copilot, somebody could not only have access to all that data, but they could extract it in very precise ways with no lifting. They could ask a question to give me a list of everyone's name, social security number, and address. Boom. The prompt gave it to you. All right, now export that out into Excel. So we have to be very thoughtful in that area. That is, to me, probably one of the things that's kind of the Debbie Downer of the whole Copilot, is because it's so doggone powerful, and people are oftentimes not very thoughtful when they make files. You have to have some data handling protocols put in place, and Microsoft has them there. You just have to implement them. And there is, like I talked about, some of the compliance frameworks. The general Microsoft Cloud is good for most businesses, but if you have certain compliances, you may have to go with some of their different places that are primarily based on data storage, like where they're storing the data, like stateside, and then who has access to that data is another thing that it has to be should be part of your like cloud onboarding or the scoping for a cloud project. But again, I will say they do have that in there. They have security. There's a ton of stuff in there to help you and to notify you if something changes, but it's difficult to implement. And I'll be completely transparent. For us, it's still this stuff changes and they keep changing the names of everything. But the cool thing about Microsoft is that they have it where you can export the controls. Like, this is how we operate. We want to have processes that are scalable, so we get the control, or we get it set up the way it should be set up, and then basically we can take the template of that setup and apply it in other places, so that you have a standardization across the platform.
Hey, Philip, we had a question come in.
Sure.
When we are in the process of developing an AI policy, any recommendations on useful templates, frameworks to begin with?
That's a big, big, big question. I will tell you this: enable multi-factor authentication. You can also, there's a thing called conditional access. That means that, like, for your data, this isn't so much for an insider threat. This is more for an external threat that I'm going to be talking about, because those are much easier. Um, the Like, you want to enable, like, U.S. only. You want to, there's other things that you can enable, like they call it. Forget the term because they changed the term, but it's an anomaly where basically it's an impossibility where, like, if I'm trying to log in from, Gulf Shores, Alabama, and then a minute later I'm trying to log in from New York, it cancels it. Um, there's also some things that they have that kind of monitor it from a they call it SIM. It's Security Information Event Management, and it has that built in where it would say, you know what, Philip logs in from these places and at these hours, and if I log in outside of that standard format, if you will, it puts in an alert to someone. And you can even set it to where it won't let me. So there are things in there, and those are the type things, those anomalies. And it's implemented through conditional access policies, is where it's at inside of the Microsoft Entra ENTRA. It's kind of like the security management platform. I'll tell you another thing, of course, MFA, multi-factor authentication, and the app, using the actual application, not a text. And it's a longer story, but use the app. All right. And then also, I want to say that there are a lot of other AI platforms out there. Gemini is Google's, Grok is X's, and I use them. I use a lot of them. I use Grok a lot, especially as it relates to, like, current events, because Grok is tied into X, and it'll give you that more up to date things. And then, of course, ChatGPT, Perplexity. There's a lot more AI engines out there, and so we're talking about Copilot, but I just want you to be aware of that, just so you know. And then finally, and we can send you this slide deck. These are some companies. I have not vetted these companies, so I'm just basically saying these are some companies out there that help companies build out workflows or implement AI technologies. And that's something that we don't specialize in. Now, I can show you some basic stuff. I can secure stuff. I can do those things. And I'm always happy to help, people. But if you wanted to have a company that specialized, say you had this, you're an entrepreneur, you're a business guy, and you're like, man, if I could solve that one damn problem, and I have some of those, then I'm going to be reaching out to some of these companies, because, again, it's about being curious, and it's about asking great questions. There's companies out there that are being formed, and there's becoming an entire ecosystem of companies that are building out these integrations that help the business process model. And these are some companies here that I looked through that I had some interest in. I thought, oh, that's pretty cool. I could see how that could work for this company or that company or for us or whatever. So, and we're going to send this out so you guys will have all of this for you. But I would just encourage you to, again, be curious, think about things, and you know, I'm more of like the lifelong learner kind of guy. I love people like that. I usually, they kind of iron sharpens iron, and I love to see a company getting out there trying something, and but I would start with one problem, because this stuff can overwhelm you. I mean, you can be like, man, I can fix that. No, you better get one thing and let's get it going, and don't wait for great. Let good be the starting point. Don't try to perfect it. Get it out there, get it rolling. And I think that you're very likely to outdo your competitors if you take that approach using AI. And some industries a little more than others, especially industries that have language models. But what we're going to find is that like there's places where like you can capture data in forms, the end user puts in, and then you can then implement it and integrate it in with this system, and then create these documents and email them or store them or send them to this person for signature with the having the signature where it's all ready, no human had to touch it, then file it back whenever they send it back, and then even follow up with them using voice AI is pretty cool. It's pretty close, and on very specific applications it can work extremely well. And you could have that whole ecosystem of using AI to take something from stem to stern and never have a human touch it. And that's kind of what these companies are out there that are doing that kind of stuff. So think big, think big. All right. So for anybody on this call, I think the biggest thing and the thing that I would be able to help really the most with is like doing that a data loss prevention assessment. And it's free, no arm twisting. Anybody knows me, I'm gonna tell you what I can tell you, and I can tell you if I could fix it or this is what you need to do, and if there's a price tag with it, I'll give it to you, and I'm not gonna bug you. So, but you need to know about who has permissions to what. And there is inside of Microsoft, they call it DLP, data loss prevention practices. And that's where you would go. I think that's what I really should have used with that question that he said as far as internally. And I'll give you some examples of it, like where, let's just say, instead of sharing the file, like attaching a file and sending it out, I could send a link that forced you to create an MFA account to have access to it, and it expired in 14 days. Because when you look at business email compromise, like when somebody takes over your email account, they're going to take all those documents and they're going to strip them, and they're going to use them and do whatever with them, whatever they can, any type of communication. But just think about it. If it was a link that expired in 14 days, we're just shrinking our risk like you wouldn't believe. It also shrinks the storage size of mailbox, and there's a lot of benefits to things that come out of that. And you can implement those policies, on the way out, meaning that you can't share a document without these things in place. So that would have been a better answer to the question that was asked earlier. So I apologize. We'll look at some vulnerabilities. Every system has vulnerabilities, and you want to think about how can we know about them, how can we be alerted on them, how can we put a process in to patch them and to do it. Because when you look at risk in general, there's the option of accepting it. That is an option. And sometimes it's not the worst option because of you don't want to spend $1 million protecting $100,000 asset. But I think it's important, and I think it's where our industry really fails. And I think the clients, being maybe too transparent here, I think the clients are somewhat complicit. They're like, oh no, I got a guy, and he's handling it. They don't know their risk, and even the guy they got doesn't understand risk. And it's why a lot of breaches happen, but I don't want to get off on that. And then I'll give you some actionable recommendations. And I like to follow, I follow that Center for Internet Security because it's like what I call essentials. They're the ones that really need to be done. There's 18 controls in that. And in general, as a business owner, when you look at risk, not having a breach or not having a problem is where you want to start. So I would usually look at security before I looked at compliance. A lot of people are just, oh, yeah, give me those forms, give me the documents. I want to get compliant. Well, that's fine. And sometimes it's necessary. I get it. But if I'll use HIPAA for an example, there's never been HIPAA has come knocked on somebody's door and said, let me look at your organization. But I'll tell you, after a security breach, they will come in and they will look at your organization and they will fine you and they will implement all kind of things that you have to do immediately. And there's a Office of Civil Rights Attorney on your butt to make sure it happens. So first order of business, do no harm. Let's focus on the core components of security, and I'll give you some actionable recommendations starting from this. And usually the things that'll mitigate your risk the greatest are the cheapest. Sometimes, again, like I'll go back to the things that are inside of Microsoft 365, like multi-factor authentication. It's free, but you have to be willing to implement it. You have to understand your risk, and you have to, so I usually start there and then work my way up, and then, everybody has a certain tolerance for risk. All right. I'm already 4 minutes over, but I do want to do some Q&A if anybody wants to hang in there.
Yep. Okay, so we had one come in that said, is there a webinar on Gamma? I heard Philip mention that.
Not that I know of. I mean, it's gamma.ai. I don't know. We might I could give you a 30-minute tour, but or maybe reach out to them. It's a cool ass product, and it's so easy to use. It wouldn't take much to get you off the ground. And I think that's the thing. I think that's a great question, because I think that's the thing that keeps us from doing it. I know for me, I look at things and I'm like, man, I know that ain't gonna be that hard, and it's usually not. For these products to be successful, they got to be pretty user friendly. But it's that 3 hours, 5 hours that if I went in there and I just locked myself up and didn't take any distractions, I'd be pretty good at it in 5 hours. And I think we need to block time, or call the company. I do it with some of our products and onboarding. I'm like, look, I will pay the extra money for you to get me to like a baseline of understanding, because A, it may never happen if you don't do that, number one. And then B, it's like there's a lot less frustration, which I think a frustrated Philip is burning 4x or 8x the energy that a calm, thoughtful and where I want to be guy is. So I think that there's a cost to that may not be, like where it's going to hit the checking account, but it's going to hit my heart account or whatever, if that makes sense. But tell them to reach out. Hell, I'll give them a damn 30-minute review of it. It ain't that hard.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And there's a slide deck, right? There's a contact information right here.
Perfect. We had another question come in. Once you set up an account for Copilot, is it automatically added to your Excel?
Yes. It takes a minute. Like sometimes Microsoft is kind of, it may take an hour or two. You may have to log out, log back in, but yeah, generally, yeah, it'll show up there. Now, let me say this too. There are some settings in the admin center that that I don't think you have to turn on. But if it didn't show up, you'd have to go underneath the admin center and you basically tell it that it's okay to show up. I think by default it would, but say you had somebody in there that's been managing your Microsoft 365 tenancy, they could have turned that off.
Okay, and then we had another question come in. How do I implement Copilot in Teams?
It's $30 a month license. That's the first step per person. And I tell you, like how, how, like if you're part of a team and like say I have Copilot and I have permissions to that team, the other people don't have to have Copilot in order to share in that some of that note taking and stuff. So that would be part of that little assessment I would do, is like I'll give you some things like that. So maybe everybody on the team doesn't have to have it, but there's certain features where like that team's synopsis thing that I showed you, the other people on that Teams call could have access to that, and with just one person having Copilot. But you got to buy the license and assign it to your account. And again, if the settings aren't turned off, it'll just show up. And you can go to copilot.microsoft.com and it'll be there. It'll take it maybe a few hours sometimes to kind of migrate its way into all the aspects of that, and you'll see it because, like, if you go look at just a regular old thing, you see that little icon right there, and it'll show up. All right. Well, I know I always try to be mindful of everyone's time, and I appreciate you guys so much for joining. And I hope this does something cool for you. I hope you get out there and get curious and get going because I fundamentally believe that the companies that get on board and and start trying to use it, you're going to find that I bet very shortly it's like how to ever get by without it. All right. Again, thank everyone for coming out. And if you have questions or things, I will help you. And so reach out. Hope you have a wonderful afternoon and a great weekend to come.